Alright, I'll be honest, this was meant to come before the newest Resident Evil game was released, but due to laziness and personal life, I kinda had to postpone this by a little bit. Hopefully I produce this relatively soon after the release of the game though, fingers crossed. Anyways, but with 30 years past since the original game, I thought it would only be appropriate to look back on this massive game franchise. Back before the remix and a new era, before the days of Chris Redfield's comical massive arms, and various live action films and animated movies, we move back to the original, Resident Evil 1. In 1996, it was created and was considered to be the first ever survival horror game. The player must go through the game solving various puzzles and mysteries and using the game's mechanics to try and survive a horror situation. Created by Tokuro Fujiwara, who was inspired by the gameplay limitations of his 1989 horror game Sweet Home, and directed by Shinji Mikami. The game's main plot was about a group of police special forces investigating a mansion outside their city up inside the mountains, and it turns out both the mountains and the mansion were filled with zombies and other creatures, and they must now escape. This game was definitely popular, as a year after its first production, over 4 million copies were already sold, and of course, as I alluded to, this spawned off a massive multimedia franchise and helped renew the interest of zombies in the 2000s. But why exactly is this game so popular? Was it really any good? Does it still stand up to the test of time? Does playing this in the 21st century feel any different than it would in 1996? Well, like everything else I review on this channel, I should first experience it myself. So I did. I played through Resident Evil here on my YouTube channel, actually my progress as I did so. Check it out if you want. I created a playlist of it all, I think at this point. And after playing, I'm ready to tell you about my opinions of how well this game became, so sit down and buckle up as I regale you on my experience with Resident Evil Biohazard. Spoilers, obviously.
Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Barry Burton, Rebecca Chambers, Albert Wesker, Resident Evil.
First off, the game was originally produced by Capcom and named Biohazard in Japan originally. They changed the name to Resident Evil because of copyright issues in America. The name Resident Evil was created because the residents do be evil. That's not a joke. That's legitimately the reason why they called it that. Second off, as I said, I was pressed for time, and I did only manage to ever complete half of this game technically. I mean, I played through the entire story, but there's actually 2 playthroughs that you should do for the complete experience. Let me explain. In Resident Evil, you can choose between 2 characters to play, Jill Valentine or Chris Redfield. The main strokes of the story and the plot are the same for both characters, with a few different changes when it comes to characters, interactions, gameplay, and abilities and dialogue. You still deal with the same bad guys and deal with the same twists and turns, but just slightly different. Chris Redfield is considered to be the hard mode of the game, as Jill Valentine has certain abilities like lockpicking, so you don't need to search for as many keys as you would for Chris Redfield. She also knows basic chemistry, so she can combine herbs to make them stronger and heal you more. She has 2 more inventory slots. She also gets herself an extra gun. Dubbed a bazooka in the game, it's really more so of a grenade launcher, both in design and in the remake. Though, to be fair with Chris, he does get more health, and it seems that Chris also gets a higher crit chance, though again, I haven't played as Chris Redfield yet, so I cannot verify if that's true or not. And also, the grenade launcher is a bit of a double-edged sword for Jill Valentine when it comes to inventory space, as not only does it take up an inventory slot, but there's also 3 different ammo types that the grenade launcher uses, which all do basically the same thing within the game. It's just that they take 3 different inventory slots, which can be annoying, which can kind of negate Jill Valentine's bigger inventory advantage. Though the best edge Jill has over Chris is definitely being able to skip some of the more tedious parts of the game, as she can do things like play the piano or lockpick, as I said before. Her skills and Chris' inability to do those skills kind of makes him a bit of a himbo, but considering what he does in the future, that makes sense, I guess. So now let me explain my playthrough experience. I'll add on the differences Chris has over Jill when appropriate. So starting off the game, we're introduced to a live action cutscene of evil angry dogs that attack the team of STARS police officers, and several members fall. We also see a very iconic shot if you're a Lost Media guy. You see, the game, while crediting the creators, programmers, developers, the actors were never credited. There's a bunch of foreign actors gathered in Japan to shoot these scenes, and allegedly the conditions weren't the best when it came to filming. Like nights in the cold and covered with mosquitoes, and they had a bad time shooting the opening scene for this game. Over the years, fans have wondered who these actors were, and many deep dives and searches were attempted to uncover these actors, slowly figuring out who is who one by one over the years. Some very interesting stuff. Anyways, back to the actual game. The survivors of dog attack run for the mansion, the only shelter in the area, and do some very epic shooting. Also, for some reason, the live action parts of the game aren't actually caught by my OBS. They're set for gameplay capture, but the moment the cutscenes start, they go to black screen for some reason. I guess for whatever reason, the live action cutscenes weren't recognized as part of the game, though the rest of the game was. It's interesting. So we start the game with your player character, Wesker and Barry, entering the hotel after some grade A voice acting about this horrifying situation.
What is this? Wow, what a mansion!
Captain Wesker, where's Chris?
I will have to say that Jill likely has the best voice actor. Her voice actually sounds like an attempt of sounding concerned, while Wesker sounds like he's not trying that much, and Barry's just kinda there.
Can you go? I'm going with you. Chris is our old partner, you know.
I mean, Jill's voice actress here is still a far cry from future voice actors who play her, but at least there's an attempt. So cutscene done, we start playing, and oh my god, these controls. So I'm playing on the PC, and the controls on the mouse and keyboard is something I struggle to wrap my head around. So when I say mouse and keyboard, I more so mean keyboard, as the mouse literally does nothing here. So you move around with the arrow keys. The up arrow moves forward, down arrow moves back. The only thing that the left and right arrows do is turning around. You don't walk in that direction when you press them. As a person used to playing with the WASD keys, having to play with the arrow keys were a bit more jarring than you would expect, and especially in the beginning caused me a lot of mess-ups. It is definitely a bit of an older gameplay system, but I was able to wrap my head around everything well enough. When it comes to other key controls, on the keyboard at least, C was the interact button to most things, B was the back button, and X allowed you to actually use a weapon as a weapon. Holding X meant that your character would actually adopt a combat stance, allowing you to shoot or stab with your weapons. Now since we're talking about gameplay controls, I may as well dive deeper into how the combat and gameplay feels so I don't repeat myself too much. The game implements a unique camera angle system where the camera angle is fixed at a specific angle depending on where you are, and then would change depending on where you go. So there are plenty of scenarios where you couldn't really see the enemy or even really your own character depending on where both you and the camera were placed. It does add a horror element as you are blind and more likely to be surprised by an enemy, but at the same time this game is 30 years old. The graphics and the polygons and the acting makes it a lot less horror and more frustrating as you try to move around, and trying to figure out where everything is just harder, not scarier for the most part. Of course, this was also coupled with the fact that these fixed camera angles did not make these new, or I suppose older controls any less confusing. Speaking of controls, the X button, where it places your character into a shooting position, is auto-locks you onto the enemy as long as you're in the same camera angle as them. So once they move out of line of fire, you have to re-lock onto them by either using left and right arrow keys, or by simply letting go of the X button and pressing it again to re-lock them. Though it can cause future issues, and if you're not automatically locked in, the accuracy isn't the most trustworthy. Shooting is a bit of a mixed bag. Unlike modern Resident Evil games, as you guide where you're aiming and you shoot where you hit, and you hit where you shoot, there's no limb targeting in this game, there are no headshots, no adjustment aim with the mouse. It simply just hits, and sometimes you get lucky and get a critical hit, and the shot does more damage. So that's a pretty straightforward method when it comes to dealing damage at least. Though if the creature is in the middle of an animation, the shots will not register and you will automatically miss it. Along with this, when an enemy is lying prone on the floor, you cannot hit it, you cannot stab it, you cannot shoot it, you cannot kick it. Despite the fact that they are just laying there and pretty easy target in any other situation, because you can't look downwards, you can't hit it. And that makes things frustrating, as there are some zombies that just play dead or lay down on the ground and you can't hit it. And despite knowing that it's an obvious trap, you can't do anything to get past it unless of course you actually walk into the zombie, in which then it will automatically hit you and you can't do anything about it. You can't fight back, you'll automatically kill the zombie after it does some damage to you, but that's annoying because that's the only option to solve that problem. There are no other ways you can get around that, and it just forces you to lose health, which is frustrating, to say the least. While it's annoying for zombies who quite did, there are other creatures that do similar things. One of the bosses, a snake, will slide across the floor towards you, and because it's sliding across the floor, you shooting at it won't actually make any contact, and your bullets fly past its head. Shooting dogs can also be inconsistent at times, as their crouching animation sometimes means that you can't hit them, and speaking of frustrations, fighting anything with that knife is a pain. Listen, I'll be honest and say that I'm not the best pro elite gamer, but that knife is honestly terrible. Fighting zombies is difficult with just a knife, as first off, it does very little damage, second off, it's hard to dodge attacks coming at you, so you kind of only get a few swings of the knife before an enemy automatically will get a hit back on you, so you're kind of exchanging, which isn't fun. And there are plenty of times where even your knife swing will register as a miss, despite the fact that you should be in range. And again, it's just very annoying that despite being perfectly lined up, you missed the enemy because they were in the middle of another animation, or they play a brilliant tactic of laying down. My worst experience when it came to playing this game was trying to fight the dogs with the knife. They run around, right around your feet, which you would think would be easy to hit, but no, you swing above their heads. The only time you can actually hit the dog is if it jumps mid-air and you intercept it in time. But if they're too close to you when they leap, you really don't have a shot. You can need distance when they leap so that you can time your baseball swing with your knife. The knife, for the most part, is really useless against the dogs. Speaking about other weapons when it comes to taking down monsters, pistols take about 7 shots without crits to take down a zombie, and about 4 or 5 shots to take down a dog without crits. Shotgun kills zombies in just 2 shots, crits 2 of them in 1, though for whatever reason, the shotgun also requires 4 shots to take down a dog. Well, the grenade launcher and later on the special pistol you get take down the dogs in just 1. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, dogs are shotgun resistant. Speaking of the grenade launcher, it one-shots most of the basic monsters. Aside from firing, using the other items was a bit of a doozy at times. In order to use anything, you must open up your inventory, select the item that you want to use, press the use button inside the inventory. That's how you work with stealing items, that's how you combine ammo to their guns to reload them. It makes sense. But the use button is a bit of an annoying subject for me, though in part it's probably because I've been coddled with the eases of modern game design. You see, in most cases when you have a quest-related item in your inventory and interact with an object that needs the item, you simply press the interact button, the item is used. Or it opens up your inventory automatically and has the item pre-selected and asks you if you want to use it. Anytime you interact with an object that needs an item, you must open up your inventory first and you must navigate and select the item, then press the used option. And at the same time, you must be in range of the object that needs to be interacted with as well, otherwise pressing use is pointless. So I often had to find myself being nose to nose with an object I need to interact with in order to actually use them, and oftentimes I will approach an object, forget that I need to open up my inventory and select the item inside my inventory and simply just press the interact key with the object, and I just get a text box saying that it needs a key or the thing has no power, despite the fact that I have the battery or the key in my inventory. Because I haven't selected the key or battery inside my inventory, I can't interact with the object. I have to interact with my object inside my object in order for the object outside to be interacted with the object inside. I mean, to be fair, it's a relatively minor, but it's a consistent annoyance that I will never get used to, as, again, you just have the item inside your inventory, and then it just registers when you interact with an object. One final main thing about the gameplay mechanics, obviously the movement. As I said already, you use the arrow keys, which was a bit of a difference for me. The camera angles obviously hinder sight and movement, especially when you're in a large room and that changes camera angles, and suddenly you're confused, especially when you're in a large room that has multiple camera angles depending on where you go inside the room, because suddenly you find yourself a bit turned around and confused at which direction you're supposed to be going. But that does add to the challenge, and it would add to the horror aspect if this game wasn't, 3 polygons deep. It makes it easy for enemies to sneak up on you, and also of course to be more careful when it comes to these angles, as there are good chances where you will no longer be able to aim or shoot at the enemy because you just simply can't see where they are anymore. So the major issue I have with the movements in this game is when you're trying to interact with objects that require pushing. There is no pulling in this game, only pushing objects around, and not having the ability to pull an object in this game is kind of frustrating. There are large pieces of furniture, statues, and boxes that you have to shove around. There are many puzzles that require you to do so. It is easily the worst part of the game. Not because the puzzles are hard, they're relatively simple, move this thing to plug that hole, move this thing to clear that area, move this thing to fill up an empty spot. They're relatively straightforward, even if I do miss the obvious ones at times. I don't want to talk about it. Messing up usually means pushing the object to a corner where it can no longer be pushed any other direction, which was why not being able to pull is annoying. But it is a gameplay mechanic, and it's obviously something that I have seen before, so I can't complain too much. The issue is what registers as a push or not. To push an object, you simply move into it, and a pushing animation activates. However, pushing something is not as simple as moving into an object, as sometimes a push isn't registered as a push, even if you are walking into the object. You need to be a specific straight-on angle. Otherwise, if you're slightly askew, this pushing animation won't register and you'll eventually just slide off the object, and then have to move backwards and try it again, and then be really angry at yourself. This coupled with the awkward camera angles turns the horror game into more of a rage game, though thankfully this is just a small part of the game, though this exactness kind of follows other parts. As I said, you kind of have to be nose to nose with objects to be able to interact with them with quest items. Also, trying to pick the items up is the same thing. You kind of have to be right on top of it in order for them to register. It can be a little bit frustrating when you have to just do these little micro adjustments, so these mechanics tend to be frustrating aspects of the game, and sometimes not the most well thought out. But it is survival horror, and its purpose isn't to frustrate, it's supposed to horrify and force you to, well, survive. It does survival horror rather well, actually. The game gives you just about enough ammo to do everything in the beginning. You're stuck with a limited amount of pistol ammo. Now, obviously, you could just run around and avoid the enemies, and you'll save on a lot of supplies. If you're like me and want to clear every single room that you enter, it is a resource management game. The ammo they give you is just enough to be able to take down all the zombies, and clearing the rooms is a good strategy as the zombies and monsters don't respawn, meaning that you can venture in and out, which is very useful, especially when you're exploring. Taking out the enemies is easy enough with the way the shooting works. Of course, we're giving barely enough ammo, so I found myself, at least in the beginning, using the knife to try and finish off the zombies. Playing as Jill Valentine, you get the shotgun early, just a bit more firepower. You're still going around scrounging for just enough ammo to clear every room. Speaking of resources, another key aspect of all, the healing herbs and first aids. Much like the ammunition, you collect just enough to keep yourself going for around the first third of the game. This is great because it kept me on edge. I really had to manage my resources on when to use ammo and when to use my healing items. The safe houses were a great boon for me and were very precious moments of respite and resource gathering for me, which is how they were designed to be, which is very clever. Now, with that being said, halfway through the game, that changed somewhat. I, at this point now, had 3 guns as Jill Valentine, 5 different ammunition types, and only 8 inventory slots. And speaking about resource management, about halfway through the gameplay, not to mention you have to carry around keys, books, gemstones, and other quest items and healing items to boot. Suddenly, inventory management became key. Though thankfully I tended to only get one type of grenade round at a time, so I didn't need to worry about juggling too many different grenade ammos too often. The knife was also less important, and eventually you could just get rid of it, and oftentimes you find yourself with abundance of one ammo, while having barely any or maybe none at all of another ammo type, so you can just get rid of a gun as well. And also, if you're trying to clear out rooms one by one, you do go through your ammo reserves pretty quickly too. And trying to be clever and know when to carry a quest item and when to leave it inside a chest is also something that you have to manage. Do you take all 3 guns for more shooting, or do you take an extra inventory slot so that in case you pick up a new quest item, or more healing supplies, or heck, more ammo that you're running so desperately low on? It's definitely a survival horror as it poses a lot of questions on how you survive this horror. Though past the halfway point and beyond, much like my experience when it comes to playing most of these Resident Evil or survival horror games in general, the resources in these games kind of get a lot less limited. And healing items weren't really an issue anymore, because there was just several. In fact, so much that I couldn't pick up all the healing herbs that were scattered around the place at a certain point in time. Probably is in part due to the fact that I was playing as Jill Valentine, and her ability to mix the red herbs to make the green herbs 3 times more effective, meaning that you heal 3 times more with a single use. definitely made things easier, but there was also an addition of an abundant amount of blue herbs, and hey, maybe I'm really lucky, but I've only ever needed to use the blue herbs, I think only once for the purpose of curing my poison. And once we reached 3/4 of our way through this game, ammo also became far less of a problem. And with two one-shot kill guns, things became a bit easy. Granted, Chris Redfield might be a bit harder, though again, he does have more health, and because he doesn't have grenade ammo, he would likely substitute the one-shot grenade ammo with shotgun ammo, which, while not as strong, still two shots most things. But in order for me to get into that position in the first place, I had to be relatively careful, and I'm pretty conservative when it came to using my ammo and healing supplies. There's a reason why this created and popularized the survival horror genre. It was very well made when it comes to that aspect. Resource management was thought through properly and was very fun to play. Speaking of playing, back onto the plot. Side note, I referred to a guide while playing this, as there are a few ways that you can fail in getting the true ending in the game, so I thought that using this guide to make sure that I don't make this mistake was useful. Also, I think this guide might not be for this version of the game I'm playing. There's just a few minor differences that I found while I was trying to follow the guide, but things were minimal. After entering the mansion, we and talk to our two friends, Wesker splits off from us, and so Jill and Barry investigate the rooms. Starting with the dining hall, the two investigate some stuff, and we take a wooden shield from the fireplace, and Barry takes down the very first zombie. Then after some more wandering around and investigating, it led me to a piano room. And I remember how I said pushing mechanics suck? Well, the first time I tried to move a bookshelf, I wasn't properly aligned, I wasn't considered pushing it. Only for a couple minutes later for me to try again and actually be properly aligned for it to work. Ugh. Anyways, once shoved out of the way, Jill then collects a music sheet and is able to play the piano and a door opens up. Playing as Chris Redfield, he does not know how to play piano, so you must first discover Rebecca Chambers, another STARS member who is lost inside his mansion, in order to be able to play the piano. Rebecca Chambers doesn't appear in the Jill Valentine run, so I have no idea what happens to her. Entering the unlocked room, found a goat shoe and Swampy was the wooden one, so that the door will remain open and we leave with a golden shield. Why is this mansion filled with so many elaborate puzzles and trapdoors? Well, I don't actually know. Anyways, with the gold shield, the objective is to put it in the place where the wooden shield is, so the ticking grandfather clock will stop ticking and reveal a secret key. I completely forgot that you could put a shield by the fireplace, and in fact, I forgot so much that I eventually put the golden shield inside a storage chest as I explored other parts of this game, postponing my progress by quite a lot. Speaking of shoving puzzles, jump some steps into position to climb a statue to get a map, but the steps have to be in a very specific position, and Jill apparently doesn't know how to lean over and grab things unless they're in a specific position. Ugh. So we enter through the statue woman door room that then leads into a hallway, and mutant dogs attack. And like I said, Neck was very not good against these kind of animals, and I died. It was pretty frustrating having your character swing right over the head of an enemy that should have been very easy to hit. To be fair with the programming of the dogs, attack patterns were pretty predictable. They often would bite you once before they start to circle around you, giving you ample time to counterattack, which would have been nice if I had anything other than the knife, because striking downwards is a foreign concept apparently. You know, punching down is just a metaphor. You don't need to literally not do it, right? It didn't help matters that I was low on health and ammo, as I had just fought a couple zombies earlier, and again, I'm trying to clear out every room properly, so I died again in my second attempt. Honestly, I think I would do better against this thing in real life, but by some miracle, I do manage to take out the dog, and I get past the halls. Getting through this hallway then leads me to the east wing, with many different rooms and doors. Entering the rooms, the shotgun allows Jill Valentine to activate the Jill sandwich line, which at this point is more iconic than infamous, I think.
Oh, Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
If you were playing as Chris Redfield, you would need the golden shield and place it on the fireplace in order to get the special key so that you can unlock a broken shotgun in another room, so you can replace the good shotgun with the broken shotgun so that the trap doesn't activate. But thankfully I'm playing as Jill Valentine, so I didn't need the golden shield. I didn't realize I needed to use the golden shield at the fireplace. Anyways, with the shotgun, I stumbled through another door filled with crows, and not reading the puzzle properly, I then proceed to die from the crows attacking me. Oh, and I saved before the hallway with the dogs. It was only 7 shots and 2 dogs. Hooray. This time I just run past the dogs to get the shotgun and continue down the hallway. Then going through another hall and dispatching 2 more zombies. Oh, and actually, one more thing that the zombies will do. They'll sometimes, after you shoot them, fall prone and act dead before you get back up. You know when they're actually dead when a pool of blood forms underneath the bodies. Otherwise, they're faking it. Sadly, no coup de grace, so you can't actually finish them off when they're grounded. Entering through a blue door, I then reached the east stairs into a save room. Unfortunately, I didn't realize there was also a storage box and supplies that I could have gotten. Due to the camera angle in which you first enter, you don't get to see it unless you move further down the room, and I didn't move, so I just saw the save spot and just used it. I will eventually find the storage box and the items later, which is useful because as there is a quest item involved, but I don't do it right now, so yay. I then retrace my step and fail to understand the hidden puzzle some more, and then go back to fight the dogs and then die. The knife is not my friend. So instead I try going up the stairs and there are 3 zombies. And due to the fact that you can't shoot upwards, you can't actually hit the zombies walking around the stairs. And these zombies also spit acid. The one good thing about the zombies that spit acid is that the damage is minimal. But trying to deal with these 3 zombies, I wasted a lot of ammo and resources, so I just decided to reset by having them spray me to death. Halving of these enemies aren't the best, but again, but honestly, I can't complain too much about how simple they are because it made fighting through a horde of zombies relatively alright, so I can't complain about how simple they are. But still, when you actually try to seek death, it's kinda hard. So instead I entered the hallway with the dog back to the main mansion room. And this is where I found out that it took 4 shotgun shells to stop a dog. Because, of course. Entering the blue room was a statue. Afterwards, I go through the door with a curtain. And all there is a zombie laying prone. And you can't kill it unless you let it bite you, and then there you kick off its head. So it's just a place that allows you to take damage, as there's nothing here interactable for Jill Valentine. There is for Chris Redfield, he gets an item, I believe a key that allows him to unlock a door that Jill automatically lockpicks. But I'm not playing as Chris, I'm playing as Jill. So at this point, it's starting to feel more of a rage game than a horror game. Though, to be fair, I'm also in part to be blamed. I could have played this a lot smarter, and of course I could have used the golden shield at this point already, and unlocked a few items and made things a lot easier. But that's the way the cookie crumbles, and frustrated after some more failing, I enter the save room by the stairs and discover the key items like the pesticide and the storage box, which contains more ammunition that I desperately need. Now with the crystal ammo, I can actually dispatch the dogs in just 8 shots, and save on the precious shotgun rounds I have. Climbing up the stairs, on the east side, I then deal with zombies with the shotgun, clearing a way through a door to be on the 2nd floor landing, where Jill then meets up with Barry. And she proceeds to hand Jill Valentine some grenade rounds. Look, the ammo even says grenade, so why is it called a bazooka? Whatever. Well, no time to worry about that, because I died trying to get to the west side of the mansion. So, I respawn, and decide to be a bit more slow and careful and clear the areas room by room. This proves to be a successful strategy, because not only do I get more healing items, but I also learn how to craft better healing items. Then I try to be too clever and use the knife to save on ammo, and I pay for it. I hate this knife. Tired of dying, I start to rely less on the knife and more on the guns, and once more, re-meet Barry to get my grenades. Go into the upper floor dining hall where there's a zombie and shadow statue for a gemstone. Was a full inventory at this point. I go to the western upper floor of the staircase in order to clear out some zombies and clear up my inventory by expending some ammo. And it still doesn't quite work because I rely on the knife a bit too much again and pay for it. At this point where Jill re-meets Barry, Chris would have found Rebecca Chambers, who would be featured in Resident Evil 0. Anyways, after many retries, I have the gemstone, but most of the rooms are still not cleared. But I actually go and pick up the grenade launcher from the body of a former STARS member named Forrest Spider. He's in a patio area where he was pecked to death by crew. Now with a grenade launcher and 12 instant kills, I finally have a way to clear the hallways. Yet I still rely on the knife too much and take way too much damage before I enter for unlocking a safe room located at the lower west staircase. Now with my guns, I am able to clear out zombies in many different rooms for ease of future travels. I used a blue gem on a tiger statue and received a crest in return. Now is a bit more freedom to roam around due to the lack of enemies. I enter a greenhouse, use the pesticide to get rid of the plant monster, and take on some much needed healing items. Again, because I'm playing Jill's route, I can mix the red and green herbs together to make them 3 times more effective. Also, I get one of the mansion keys, the armor key. Why was the key located with a giant plant monster? I don't know. I backtrack near the western save room and open up the door with a new key and discover a room with a broken shotgun. Like I said before, Chris used this broken shotgun to save himself from the Jill sandwich trap, but we don't need it as we're playing as Jill. Heading back east on the second floor and unlocking another door, we find a new room with our dying friend Richard, who warns us about a big snake with poison. The next step was to be to use the night key to open up the door and fight the snake again. But at this point I put the shield in the chest to save on inventory space, and it's out of sight and out of mind, so instead I do some exploring. God damn it. Wandering around the west hall second floor, I use the key that I do have to unlock some more rooms. Entering some of these rooms, I find some notes related to lore. Reading them together, you can piece together everything that happened beforehand. How people in Raccoon City have been whispering about how there's weird creatures inside the forests and mountains, and how people have gone missing, and that's why the STARS members went to investigate. How the first STARS team going in there, the Rebecca Chambers team, disappeared, and then Jill Valentine and Chris Redfield's team came to investigate afterwards, and you also get information about the various monsters that they've been developing here inside this mansion. Anyways, I empty out an aquarium and get some more ammo. I go to the next room to grab a lighter and a herb. Then I wander around aimlessly for a bit, not realizing that I should have used the shield at this point. I unlock a new door next to the double doors to the main entrance of the mansion, find some more ammo and a zombie deal with. I enter another room with a crawling zombie, which of course, due to him being unhittable, I must sacrifice some health in order to get rid of him. I'm at least rewarded with some good herbs. I then proceed to be lost for a bit before unlocking a new room to the outside balcony and deal with a couple more dogs. And ammo rewarded is a room that has 6 whole healing herbs, which I leave for now and use them later on in the game. After being lost for a bit longer, I then enter a green door and use up the mansion key that I have. Here in this new room, I enter a room full of armored statues. This is a simple puzzle in which I need to move a couple of small statues to plug the air vents so that once I activate a button, toxic gas doesn't flow into the room. And the button unlocks another crest for me to collect. And at this point, I check the guide to figure out what I'm missing because I could not find the knight's key for whatever reason. And the guide told me I needed the golden shield. I hate my life. I finally go down to the dining hall and find the mansion key after using the golden shield. Life is pain. Finally able to protect the snake, and the snake employs the big 4D big brain tactic of slithering on the ground, thus being immune to all my attacks, as Jill still hasn't learned how to aim lower than waist level. Don't ask me how she's able to achieve headshots, because she can't aim upwards, it makes no sense. After being frustrated with the game mechanics, I do eventually manage to drive the snake away after a couple of tries. The snake then drops another crust, convenient. Anyways, the snake poisons Jill and she collapses, but Barry saves her and takes her into a safe room. If you were playing as Chris, Rebecca would have saved you. You temporarily played Rebecca Chambers looking for an antidote to give to Chris Redfield. But now with this part of the game completed, I was still a bit confused. Finally understood what the painting puzzle was asking of me. You have a series of paintings with buttons connected to them, and you must also press the buttons in order of youngest to oldest. And upon completing the puzzle, you're awarded with the final crest and also a crank. Why is there a puzzle that's synced up to a bunch of killer crows? I don't know. Anyways, we enter the garden and Jill deals with some dogs before getting a radio call, indicating that our helicopter pilot is still alive and in search of us. With this information, we soldier onwards into the courtyard. We use the crank to lower the water level and continue onwards. After dealing with some snakes, which aren't the most effective, they do poison you if you let them hit you, but they're pretty easy to avoid. You go down an elevator, through some gates, deal with some more dogs, and go into the guardhouse, and you can collect some herbs on the side. Inside the guardhouse, we see a new safe room and a bathroom. Then in the bathtub drain, it gives us a new key. Then I didn't realize it gave us a movable statue to plug a hole in the ground to stop a vine from attacking me, because I'm very smart. When I'm dealing with some zombies, I find a new book. I then enter a bar with some large spiders, which I then get poisoned, which if I ever use the blue herbs for their purpose. And a fun thing with the spiders is once you defeat them, they explode into a bunch of tiny little babies, which is kind of nasty and creepy, which is cool. You can also stomp on them by just wading through them, which is also kind of nasty. these little tiny babies will attack and damage you. And at this point, I was very hurt and realized that maybe I should do this in a much smarter way. So I tried to get myself killed to reset. But the tiny spiders, while they do damage, don't do lethal damage. They'll leave you at low health. Don't worry, there's a tentacle vine that also grabs and injures you, but that too also doesn't actually kill you. It just leaves you to lethal life. Oh well, there's another room with a bunch of big hornets that also do damage and poison you. They don't actually damage you, and also I didn't get poisoned. So after some more searching, I do finally find a zombie that acquiesced to my request. Hooray. At least I gathered some useful information. Now, with a better understanding of the layout, I do all the same things again, but just a bit better. I grab the keys next to the hornets, unlock a door to get a map, deal with the zombie, find some info about a future boss called Plant 42. Then I head back and realize that I can actually use a statue to avoid the tentacle, very face palming at this point. I then head back to the room I unlocked, move away some bookshelves to find out a secret ladder. I go down it and have to do a dumb box pushing puzzle that does nothing but just force you to spend a lot of time pushing. I then enter a flooded room and a mutated shark attacks me. I try to fight it, but I forget that shooting the water is useless as they don't actually take any damage from the shots. They just get knocked back a bit, and then Mama Shark and his babies eat me. And I didn't save, so I have to do all of this all over again. This is my own fault. The pain, though this is definitely my own fault, pain is still there nevertheless. I go back down, do the stupid puzzle again, realize that I messed up the puzzle slightly because Jill doesn't understand the concept of shuffling sideways, and have to restart the puzzle all over again. I mess up again because, again, Jill is too weak to be able to push two boxes at the same time, and is unable to pull it backwards. So I restarted again, and I finally managed to get past the most heinous challenge of them all, the box pushers. Then the sharks attack again, and knowing that I can't fight them this time, I simply use the new key that I got to enter a door where the sharks can't enter, because sharks don't know doors. Thankfully, I'm in the electrician's room, and an electrician's room has an automatic drain ability. Why did they expect this place to be flooded? I don't know. I then can enter the armory and collect some more ammo and a key. I then discover another room with large plant roots sticking from the ceiling. I leave this room and then leave and open a new room with the key I found, take out a zombie inside, discover the weakness of the plant boss thanks to someone leaving the Vigil pesticide formula for me. And these characters are pretty lucky that everything's just in place for them to be able to survive. I then insert a red book into the bookshelf, and it reveals a hidden door that leads directly to Plant 42. And then I proceed to run away from Plant 42 as I regroup to try and make the pesticide. After solving a padlock puzzle, I unlock a new door that leads me to a chem lab, and I craft the V-Shield. Using the clues given to you by the files, you realize that each chemical is assigned a number value, and combining chemicals create a new chemical with a brand new value. Don't worry, the number values are actually pretty easy to understand as it's just basic addition. 1 plus 2 equals 3, you then add 3 to 2, so that becomes 5, 1 plus 2 is 3, and then you add 3 and 4 together, so to make 7, and then you add 7 to something else to create yada yada yada. Eventually, you add all those chemicals together and create the V-Jolt. Using this pesticide, I then spray it onto the root inside the basement and weaken the plant greatly, allowing me to take down the plant with just a few shots of my gun. With the plant gone, you investigate a fireplace and find a new mansion key. We even head back towards the mansion with a new key. On the way out of the guardhouse, we encounter Wesker. Strange and fantastic dialogue is exchanged between him and Jill.
To the other house and see if I can find any clues.
Will you do that? I'm counting on you.
He orders Jill to return to the mansion and explore for more clues. So, turning back to the mansion, we encounter a new, tougher monster, the Hunters. They still get one shot by grenades, so they're actually decent to deal with. Though these Hunters have leaping animations when they try to attack you. And these leaping animations means that you can't hit them when they're in the middle of the leaping animation. Fun. Well, we are able to unlock a new room inside the mansion, and we find a red book. Unfortunately, we have no inventory space, so we need to find a storage room. So we backtrack back to the hallway where the dogs used to be, but instead of dogs, they've been replaced by giant tarantulas. But conveniently, after dispatching the 2 giant tarantulas, we spent enough ammo to have room for the book. So taking the book and exploring around some more of the previously explored rooms, we deal with another hunter. Then going back outside the balcony fenced off area where all the herbs were, we encountered 3 more zombies. Again, they're easy enough to dispatch, and the herbs are still there, so we heal up. Going on the upper east side, I imagine, we then deal with another hunter. Going back west to where the stairs are, we encounter another hunter, and after dealing with him, we are able to unlock a new door and find ourselves more lore and some more experiments. Picking up some more shotgun ammo inside the trophy room, we then collect the red gems set upon a stag head. Now we can head back to the tiger statue and give it both its eyes. Though we have to deal with some hunters first, we finally return the eye to the tiger, and we unlock the python gun. Who left the python gun to be collected like this? I don't know. Python is a one-shot gun like the grenade launcher, but then I get jumped and die, so I have to go through everything again. But being prepared this time, I herb up really quickly so I don't get one-shotted, and then I finally pick up the python and am able to re-clear the western upper floors of hunters. I use a new key to finally open the red locked door and enter a new room. There we encounter the big snake again. It comes up the fire pit somehow. And once more, this dastardly monster uses the strategy of sliding on the floor to avoid my attacks and eats me. So, there a second go with it, and this time bringing healing items with me, something that I should probably do more often. Snake is slain and it melts to the floor. Then we re-meet up with Barry again, and we discover a hole that we climb down to. Then the rope breaks and we discover a new secret ladder. However, if we go down the ladder before Barry is able to return with his new rope to help pull us out, Barry will get the bad ending and die. Becca and Chris have a similar situation in which, depending on where Chris goes first, Rebecca will automatically be killed off. So when playing both characters, you have to be a bit careful and take the necessary steps in order to avoid having your teammate killed. So we wait, and Barry pulls us out and gives us some more info. After a little bit of prep, we then climb down the rope ladder and enter the secret basement, dispatching a couple of zombies. We then move past a couple of zombies just eating a corpse because, well, they're not actually going to aggro on you unless you annoy them. We enter the kitchen. We deal with a zombie and discover a room with an elevator. But the elevator isn't here, so we have to go use the kitchen elevator first. But the kitchen elevator is guarded by a zombie prone that won't get up. So again, you sacrifice a little bit of health and let the zombies lick Jill's toes. Sorry, Jill. I wish there was a function that allows you to shoot downwards, or actually, now that I think about it, having the option to aim downwards using these controls is less than optimal. So maybe just a sacrifice that you just have to take. Anyways, after the gripper session, we enter the elevator and deal with a zombie trying to greet us. Find some more ammo and a battery for the courtyard generator. Exploring some more, we enter a small research library and that contains some ammo, deal with a zombie, and find another note regarding how the STARS police discovered the mansion in the first place. Then, after solving another statue puzzle, we find an MO disc and head back up to the mansion. Back outside the garden, we then also encounter another hunter. Powering up the elevator, we can now re-crank the waterway so that our path below is now clear. And we enter the new caves. We have to take the door to the right first, where Barry is located, else again, he'll get the bad ending. Both have to accept his offer of following us, else again, he gets the bad ending. Now together, we explore the caves. He helps deal with the hunter, and then we stumble upon a generator with some ammo and a first aid spray. After a bit more exploration, we encounter our final missing STARS member, Enrico. He tells them that there's a traitor in the group, but he is killed before he can say a name. Chasing after the shooter, we only find a crank. Also, it seems that the attacker brought in more hunters for us to get rid of. At least with a new crank, we can now unlock new areas inside this cave. Use the new crank, we do some cave turning puzzles and enter a new area. Then we do an Indiana Jones and avoid a boulder, and unlock a new section where the boulder came from, which does add more questions of who, how, and why this place is designed, but no matter. We then enter a spider room, and, well, like other spiders, we deal with it. And we get into the other room. Only it's webbed up, and we need something to cut off the webs. I don't have a knife in my inventory, but the good news is they provide one in the room. Oh, I should also mention the spike balls for chemicals being used up and no longer useful, and when the cranks no longer being needed as well. Unlike the keys, they don't actually leave the inventory, so you have to go manually empty your inventory out, which is a bit annoying. We trudge on and enter a new statue puzzle. Oh yeah, the main hall in this area spawns snakes, but again, they're pretty harmless as long as you keep moving. Get ourselves a new book, enter a water fountain area, and I didn't realize this initially, but there are medals inside the blue and red book that we got. Pressing use doesn't work, I must inspect them and turn them around so that I can open seams to obtain the objects. It's a fun use of the mechanic, but I'm a bit annoyed at myself that it took so long to figure out. Anyways, following the instructions of the books and the fountain, we place the crests where they should be located and activate the fountain, and a new elevator appears. Again, why did all these puzzle pieces get left lying about in a situation where I would find them when places where I sequentially found them one after another? I don't know. Seriously, who removed these crests? Placed them randomly about. Anyways, we now explore a new underground base, and we deal with some zombies waiting for us. Then we get our second ammo disc. We also encounter a new zombie variant. They do more damage, but aside from that, their health is normal. Encountering a new room, we encounter a letter for someone named Ada. Ada? As in Ada Wall? Yeah, I guess we'll find that out later. Anyways, we're given a password, but it's in code, so we can solve it. Solving the puzzle wasn't too hard. There was a list of words on a painting with the same coded alphabet given on a piece of paper that we got. You just need to turn on the red and blue lights to simply reveal. To reveal what the letters mean, then cross-reference it with the password. Then you get the password words. Going back, we then deal with a few more of the new zombies before entering the computer room and unlock the computer locked doors. With all the doors now unlocked, we go up to the conference room where we can grab a lab key. We also discover a slideshow explaining the various monsters, and we find ourselves the Umbrella Bio team, including Wesker. You would think this might elicit a response from Jill, but nothing happens. It's a bit disappointing, honestly. Anyways, the keys unlock a new area, the research rooms, and a new safe house. Entering a new room right before the main locked door, we find some more zombies and a special note regarding the bioweapon, the T-virus. There's also a nice poster for you to enjoy, and we insert our first ammo disc, which gives us a password based on a quote from the Bible Genesis, because you know, creating life and all that. We then enter a medical room, solve the puzzle, I hate pushing things, climb through the events, and enter a morgue to find another password unlocker and insert our second ammo disc. Then we enter a power room, and the noise is a lot. And then we deal with a new enemy. They climb on ceilings and attack you, and you can't hit them unless they jump down onto the floor, because you know, you can't shoot upwards. It's not that hard to just run past them honestly, but I'm here trying to clear out rooms, so I will stubbornly try and shoot them down until one of them decides to jump down and fight me. Finally dealing with all of them, the last passcode is unlocked. Running back, we now unlock the locked door and open up a new way that allows us to discover our buddy Chris Redfield, who's in jail. Obviously, if you're playing as Chris, Jill would be here. We then leave them there for now as we continue on our adventure. Now there's an elevator that we need to enter, but first it needs to be activated. So we go back to the generator room, and we go to the further back generator where a massive generator is there powering the whole thing. Noise is even worse. Now, to activate the generator so they can power up the elevator is simple. You simply need to interact with it. But where do you interact with it? The big glowing blue computer? No, you go into the middle back area where it doesn't look like you could interact with at all, but you interact with that part. I sound really petty in this because I had to deal with that noise for far longer than I wanted to. You switch on the generator and you can head back. With the elevator powered, Barry joins us at the elevator, and hey look, Wesker's also here, and he's a traitor, and Barry's working with him. Drax. Wesker monologues about his dastardly plan to weaponize the bioweapon and sell it to the highest bidder. He also explains how Barry's family are hostages, thus why Barry's following his orders currently. Wesker then orders Barry to leave, and Wesker then explains aloud how he has been tricking Barry the whole time, which Barry overhears because he said this literally right after Barry began to leave. Barry realized he was getting tricked, decides to turn around and knock out Wesker. Barry and Wesker then search the new lab area to discover the Tyrant. And again, the cutscene leads to a black screen on OBS for some reason. Anyways, back to the video game cutscene, we see Barry accidentally unleashing the Tyrant and is taken out immediately, and now Jill must fight the Tyrant, the first of many. Thankfully, the Tyrant is actually not that hard of a boss fight. They give you an extra 15 rounds of pistol ammunition, and to be honest, it took only about 15 rounds of pistol ammunition to take down the Tyrant. Bit of a lackluster boss fight. But with the Tyrant down, Jill is able to pick up Barry and together they head out. But Wesker has woken up from his knockout and he's run. And worse yet, he also activates the self-destruct. New mission, escape. Though Wesker seems to have also activated all the remaining monsters left inside the lab, as more zombies are now roaming around the place trying to stop you. So after dealing with a few more monsters, we then go back to free Chris, because again, we want the best ending. and leaving Chris to, explode is not a good ending. We also stock up on some supplies from our chest before escaping. Together, the trio now enter a new path that leads up to the helicopter landing pad and receive a radio call about how our pilot is still out there, but now running out of fuel, so this would be our last chance to escape. The group then run into the elevator, but the dastardly Wesker deactivated it. Thankfully, while he did pull out the battery pack, he just left it right in front of the elevator so that we could just pick it up and reinsert it. Good thing he did. If he just decided to keep it with him as he escaped, we'd all be dead. So, the moment you plug in the battery into the elevator, a 3-minute timer is on and a cutscene plays as the Tyrant is revealed to be very much alive. Chris and Barry then decide to help hold it off as Jill has to run up the elevator. To be honest, the 3-minute timer isn't much of a concern, because while the time does tick over during the cutscenes, all you need to do is enter the elevator, then pick up a flare, and then call for a helicopter with the flare. But the moment you do that and the helicopter starts to hover towards you, the Tyrant erupts from the ground. Now it's a lot faster and angrier. So to deal with the Tyrant at this point, all you need to do is play keep away. You can try and shoot it with your normal guns, but really it doesn't do anything except for maybe freeze it slightly from a damage animation. You can't actually kill the thing with any of your guns at this point. So run around with some healing items, heal yourself up when you're injured, and just keep going in circles until the timer ticks down. Survive until the timer turns red, and at that point, your pilot buddy will drop a rocket launcher for you. The time it takes for the rocket launcher to drop depends on how long it took for you to get up there and call for the helicopter. Once you're down to a minute, the green timer turns red, and immediately the rocket launcher could be dropped for you. But if you took your time doing so, which I did on my second attempt, the rocket launcher will drop much later. I did 2 attempts because, like I said before, OBS doesn't capture the live action thing, and once you beat the game, a live action cutscene plays. And when I started recording on the OBS where it just went from gameplay screen to black screen, I panicked and I thought I ruined the game, and I thought my entire live stream crashed. Thankfully that wasn't the case, but I did replay it just to confirm that the live action cutscene didn't work on OBS for whatever reason. Once you pick up the rocket launcher, dealing with the Tyrant is pretty easy. You just need to hit him once, and again, with an automatic lock on, press the trigger, and you've got him. Once successfully hit, the Tyrant explodes into pieces. Jill and friends escape. And the best ending cutscene to play was Jill, Valentine, and Chris Redfield sitting together, tired but alive, with either Rebecca Chambers or Barry also just enjoying not being dead. Then the game ends with a screenshot of, well, whichever protagonist you played as, in civilian clothes, looking happy. And then you get an angel key afterwards. I don't know what the angel key does. I'll figure it out later, maybe. So with the completion of this game, overall, as I said before, the controls and graphics and the acting and the gameplay elements definitely are of its time. But the survival horror aspect is still great. The resource management was well thought out. Very creative use of gameplay mechanics when it came to using and interacting with items. Combining things together was kind of fun, though at times frustrating because of the pushing. I hate the pushing. I hate that mechanic. Oh, please tell me the remake this mechanic is much better. It was probably also slightly more of a rage game than originally intended, but overall it was fun and I'm glad I played it. More than that, it wrote the formula of how to do a successful survival horror game. Give the player just enough resources to do what they want, but if they are too stupid or too wasteful with it all, suddenly life becomes a lot more challenging for them. And again, it was also the beginning of a massive franchise and genre, and I really enjoy it, so kudos to you. It's a fun game and it's a blast from our past, and honestly, aside from the kind of wonky controls and of course some of the mechanics, fun game. And if you want a blast from the past experience, go ahead and try it. Just be aware of the clunkier controls and gameplay style. I mean, probably if you want to deal with less frustrations, play Resident Evil 1, the remake. The graphics are better, the acting is better, and everything. It made zombies popular and it spawned a great franchise. and it's continually chugging along, and with the new Resident Evil 9 being so popular, I think it's staying around for a bit longer than just 30 years. Now, as I go and experience what the boulder punching prick has to say, I hope you enjoyed this video and go ahead and leave a like, share, and subscribe. Keep yourself notified for new uploads, and for now, this is Captain Bill signing off. See ya.